A warm welcome to Lost for Words, a podcast sharing the opinions, glories, and interesting stories of guests. I am your host Jason, and this week we head to the Middle East. In February 2019, Gillian Paulley was at university doing a finance-based degree when, on a whim, she decided to apply to join Fly Emirates cabin crew. Fast forward 4 weeks, she'd packed up her life and was in Dubai, ready to begin training. Gillian joins me to discuss her life in Dubai, before, during and after the lockdown, her work as an air hostess, and some questionable things people do on board the aircraft, as well as her own personal growth over the last couple of years that she's been away. I will speak to you on the other side. A quick housekeeping note before we get started. Please leave a rating or a review wherever you get your podcasts, whether that be Apple, Google, Spotify, Podbean, or any other platform. It's the best way the podcast can grow and better content can be produced for you, the listener. It's your listening experience that matters the most. But enough from me, now on to today's episode of Lost for Words. Right, obviously air hostess now, but is that something you'd wanted to do from a young, not to say a young age, say a school leaving age?
Like, it was something that never really crossed my mind. Like, when like everybody, like when you're at school, you kind of don't really know what, and you almost kind of get like forced to apply to uni. So that was what I did. I went to uni. And it wasn't till I came out, I was like, I need like a break from studying. Like, I want to travel, but how can I do it without paying for it? And that's when obviously the idea of Emirates kind of like popped up. So no, it was never like a dream of mine to be an air hostess. But yeah. My degree was in finance and investment, so like a completely like different career path. And when I had actually graduated, like I'm saying graduated with quotation marks here because I actually cut my degree short to join Emirates. I had actually been applying, like, it was in my final year, and I had been applying like for grad jobs, was looking to be moving to London, so I was meant to actually go and work for Three, like the mobile network, because I worked with them part-time, and I had basically like applied for a role in their accounts department. So they had like a grad scheme that was going to put me through and basically train me to be an accountant. And on a whim, I thought, I'm going to apply for Emirates and see what happens. And I got offered the job, which almost was like surprising because it's so tough to get into. And then I was kind of like, I need to do it. Like, I've been given this opportunity. So yeah, my initial plan was to be an accountant, but yeah, there you go.
See, they're not quite like the recruitment windows for joining an airline. They're quite narrow in terms of the recruitment only happens at a certain time of year and fairly infrequently as well. So I know a girl who she was, I think she was British Airways, or she was TUI, and then she was applying for Virgin, but they only opened their window. It's once a year, and if you didn't get it, then you were waiting 18 months almost for the next time.
I mean, for Emirates, it was slightly different because they hadn't hired in a long time. They hadn't like done like a mass recruitment since I think 2015 or 2016. So when I applied, they were looking to take on like a lot of staff because of the expo that's coming up, like the Dubai Expo. So they were looking to basically like massively increase their like their network of crew. So the recruitment process, they actually held quite a lot of open days. It was actually the second time I had applied. I actually applied when I was 19, but you have to be 21 to work like over here in the UAE. So yeah, it was like quite open. Like, there was a lot of like open interviews. Like, it was basically like they call it an open day, where you basically show up in your like obviously suited outfit, and you like apply then, because obviously like the majority of the interview process is about how you
Can
look.
imagine it's a very. You think the world is kind of trying to go the opposite way, and that's the one profession that you think that still glamorization still occurs.
I mean, honestly, like in the UK, especially, like there has been laws like implemented. I know that Virgin have basically cut out the like demand for people having to wear makeup as part of their uniform. But over here in the UAE, you would not believe like how much it's about your image. Like we will be like when we basically go for a flight, there is someone that stands there and checks how you look before you go on. You have to have a full face of makeup on. You have to have like your hair all like trim and proper. Your uniform has to be fitting perfectly. There's no rips in your tights. Your shoes have to be polished. Like it's very about the whole like appearance because obviously you're the face of the company. Like
Have you always been with Emirates? You were saying, yeah, that was your first.
yeah, so like I said, like I never really dreamed of being an air hostess, but like I think everyone has this idea of Emirates being like so glamorous, and that obviously leads back to the way that they like promote themselves. It was like an international airline. It was like you can see the appeal to it because it's so like I said, it's so glamorous. So that's the only airline that I said that I would ever work for.
And do you see yourself as being glamorous, or is that what made you decide that they would be the only airline you would ever work for?
Honestly, I think it was like a lot about their reputation. Like I said, because it was so difficult to get into, like for me, it was such an achievement. Like I was like, holy moly, like how have I managed to do this? And I actually had to like change a lot about my appearance, like when I actually came over here. So when I initially applied, I had blonde hair and I thought I was as glam as they came, obviously, like everyone does. And they told me like I had to basically go back to my natural roots. I also liked having like long, like jazzy nails, and I was like again stripped back to the basics. Even with regards to makeup, I mean, I think it's quite common in Glasgow for everyone to be quite glamorous and have the fake eyelashes, and fake this and fake that, and I had to really like strip it back and be like a more natural beauty, essentially.
And was that like would Emirates? It's a weird thing to say, but do they prefer the natural beauty? Is that something that would appeal more?
Yeah, yes, 100%. Like they're not going to like we've had several like not emails, but several like notices to say like no fake teeth, no lip filler, no Botox, no like fake eyelashes. Like I said, like they're really like regulating down and really like pounding down on the people that are like going for that look essentially.
Airline training or air hostess training, what's that like?
So Emirates facility is like honestly unbelievable. Like they've got like all these like simulators and all these like whole aircrafts that do like basically emergency scenarios. So you've got like your ditching scenarios, so like landing on water. So you literally like one of the training sessions, you literally have to like evacuate like you are going to be pushing the passengers out on water. You initiate like the slides, you go down the slide, you learn how to like evacuate people onto like the slide rafts. And then you do like fire on the plane. Like their training is like it's pretty amazing, but it's also very intense. Like that was 2 months of like safety training and then like the service side of things, so like learning about how to like approach customers and how the meal service works and things like that. But it's all quite scary because like I said, it's you're in a simulation, but it feels so real because the simulators like literally crash and feel like you're literally in that emergency in that time. It's pretty unbelievable.
As a passenger, you would hope
Yes,
that was the case though, because if something's going to like happen,
I mean, of course, you need to be ready. Like, yeah, of course. But like, we do like an annual like we basically call it SCP. So it's like an annual like what's the word? Like a kind of update just to like kind of refresh your memory on like some of the like procedures and stuff like that. And every year I feel as nervous as what I did when I first done it, because like putting yourself in that position is so daunting, because you're responsible for potentially like 300 lives. Like it's really, there's a lot on hold
Yeah,
essentially.
there's a lot riding on for the number of passengers like, relative to the number of crew. When something goes wrong, you've got a very, very big responsibility because you're vastly outnumbered.
Exactly. And the thing is as well, like one thing that I have really found here, like Dubai is a very like multicultural, like, and it's a massive mixing pot. Like you really don't know who you're going to be getting on the aircraft. And coming over here with such a strong accent, I have like really found it very difficult sometimes to like articulate things. And I sometimes think, if I was ever in an emergency, how would people understand me if they can't even understand me asking if they want like chicken or fish? Do you know what I mean? Like,
The Glaswegian accent, like catching people out all the time, no matter where you go. Yeah.
honestly, and it's so funny when I come home or when I ever go home, my family are like, why are you talking like that? And I've just got so used to like changing the way that I have to speak in order for people to understand me. Because, like I said, most people have never heard a Scottish accent. Like,
So see your boyfriend, did you meet him in Dubai?
so yeah, I met him in Dubai, but he grew up here. So, like, for me, it kind of opened my eyes quite a bit. Like, he is English, but he lived a very different lifestyle, like, to what people, for example, in the UK live. Like, he went on amazing, like, Asian holidays, went trips to the Maldives. Like, he had, like, was open to so many more cultures than I think what we are open to in the UK. And his mindset towards things is a lot more like, it's a lot more welcoming than I think some people in the UK are, which I think it would be great to raise a child here because they are open to so many different
See,
things.
you saying that the raising the
But yeah,
child thing. So like, the boyfriend, I was saying in terms of the accent. So would you have had to, if you're around someone, you're around him all the time, and
yeah,
I assume he'll speak with an English accent if he's Brit.
yeah, yeah.
And would that be something that you would then have to tailor how you speak to make sure he understands you on a daily basis?
Honestly, I think he's now used to me. Like initially, yes, I was like putting on this like really nice, like posh accent, and now like he's so used to me like having my slang terms. I mean, don't get me wrong, there is sometimes he's like, Gillian, what? He's like, what have you just said? And he often says that like when I come home like from being in Glasgow, he's like, Gillian, can I get your Dubai voice back? He's like, you need to get back into the easy voice for me. So yeah, I think he's like getting used to it now.
See, as soon as you got the job with Emirates, did you then move straight to Dubai?
So I got the call on the 5th of February, and they actually asked me to move 2 weeks later. And I was like, no, that's not possible. Like I had a car to sell, a job to resign from, I had uni like to resign from. Like I had so many things to do. So they were like, right, okay, how about like a month then? Like, well, a month be enough. So I came over 4 weeks from the date I got offered the job. So yeah, the 8th of March 2019 was when I joined. So it was a very like quick turnaround. Like 4 weeks seems a long time, but when you need to pack up your whole life and move to another country, it's very intense.
When was your first flight? Where from and where to?
So you like when you start flying, you do two flights. You do like a turnaround flight where you go to somewhere like relatively close by and you come straight back to Dubai. And then you fly like on a layover. So you fly like somewhere further away, you stay over one night and then you come back. So I had 2 months training, and that led me to like the start of May. So my first flight was to Medina, which I believe is somewhere in Saudi, I think. And that was an eye opener. And then my next flight was to Zurich in Switzerland, which was beautiful, very nice. And they were roughly around the start of May.
what are the main things that you notice, or like an air hostess, like the inside track that an air hostess, things that you would notice that are blind to the common passenger?
Um, I'm trying to think. Like, do you mean like things that people do, or just like things that like?
Maybe things that people do and maybe don't think anything of it, whereas an air hostess, you've got like that sort of mental edge to it.
The, the, the biggest thing is people taking their shoes off in an aircraft is
Right.
terribly unhygienic. Like, I see people walking on their bare feet, and I'm like, these floors have not been cleaned in the longest time. You don't know what you're standing
Oh,
on.
bare
Like,
feet, so no socks?
no,
Surely.
so I think socks is more common in the UK, but trust me, like over here, obviously most people wear sandals
Right.
or like flip flops, and people are walking in their bare feet, and I'm like, oh my god, like it sounds like such a simple thing, but I'm like, your feet are going to be black when you get off this flight.
Yeah, that's wild because yeah. So UK aspect, I think that would be. I
It's quite a
think
normal thing.
yeah, because socks it wouldn't be a
Take
problem,
your
but
shoes
yeah,
off,
as you
just
say,
relaxing.
that's,
But
that's mad.
honestly, that is one thing that, like, see if we see someone with no shoes on, all the crew will be like looking at each
And
other.
are you allowed to say anything to them, or is it passenger rules the day? That's it.
I mean, passenger is always right. Like Emirates' way is that they're like, you can't say no. You can't say no. It's not possible. Everything is possible.
Even if they've got mid filthy toes, your mouth, your
Even
lips are
if they've
sealed.
got filthy toes, yeah. No, back to my first flight in Medina,
Yeah.
right? This is why I said this was crazy. Everybody had their shoes off, of course, and they
Right.
had their feet like up on the headrest, up on the walls, or like lying over other passengers. I'm like, what? Why is there so many feet like exposed here? Like, honestly,
And is
like,
that so? You having these, you thinking this is weird? You're then the outsider because if all these people are doing it and it's normal, you must think, why?
I
Why
mean,
am I thinking this is weird?
exactly. But I think you genuinely don't notice it until you're through.
Right. Right.
Like, I think just because like we're there, like on a turnaround, for example, you get there, obviously passengers have made a mess. So you're there in the destination that you were meant to go to. Cleaners come on, they quickly clean the floor because you've got a flight to go back to Dubai. Now the speed that they clean, there's no way that they're like thoroughly sanitizing anything. So I think like people are just expecting to go onto that aircraft and thinking that it's as clean as it should be when we're actually seeing the behind the scenes, you know?
Going back to Ibiza days, where the flight to Ibiza from Glasgow would always leave at 4 o'clock, and then
Yeah,
the flight coming back the other way, I think, was 8 or 9 o'clock. So it was only like an
yeah,
hour's gap.
yeah.
I remember thinking on the plane home, there's still like crumbs in that on the ground here, and then realising, wait, it's just because this plane is just it's just dropped the
Why?
people off, and
Yeah.
we're then just jumping straight on.
We're just jumping on somebody else's seat, essentially.
Yeah, that's mad. That's mad.
Maybe again, not so much in the UK, but like over here, there's a lot of people that have like never been on an aircraft. Like sometimes go on and that aircraft is the first time they've ever experienced an airplane. But see the amount of people that don't know how to open a toilet door. It's actually unbelievable.
Like even at that, is that not preferable? At least they know how to close it once they're in, or is that also an issue?
Honestly, no, honestly, that's an issue too. Because like a part of our job is to just make sure the toilets are tidy, like not
Right.
to clean them, make sure that they're like in usable condition. And I cannot tell you how many times I've walked in somebody sitting on the pan. And I'm like, whoa, like because the door isn't locked.
Right.
So that is another major like, oh my god, come on. Like
Sounds like you could honestly write up or draft up like an aircraft etiquette, like a wee
oh,
sort of advisable list of rules to for this.
oh, I mean, it's funny when like my parents fly or like any of my family members fly. I'm like, do this, don't do this. Like I have like rules for them, especially when they're flying Emirates. I'm like, I don't want the crew talking about you.
Yeah, put your socks on, close the toilet door behind you.
Toilet
You're
door
good to
behind you.
go.
And that's
Good to
that.
go.
That's all you need to know. They're the top two.
What's the longest flight you've worked?
The longest route that we do is direct Auckland, which is about 17 hours,
Have
which
you done that one before?
I've done it several times.
So
I
how
mean,
does that work logistically for you? Surely you must need a break or even a sleep at some point.
what happens is that they'll basically split the crew and we'll all get like rest. So you probably are like don't know this because like aircrafts that fly in the UK are relatively small, but the aircrafts that Emirates fly are like large, like jumbo aircraft.
Sometimes the Dubai one that comes to Glasgow, it's got
Okay.
essentially two tiers. Sometimes
Yes,
it's got
so
yeah,
that's the 380. It's
yeah.
like the upper tier will sit 8 in first class, 76 in economy, business class, and 370 something in economy. So you're carrying a lot of passengers, like so they're also with it being like a jumbo aircraft, we actually have like a crew rest compartment. So there's like a little block off where there's like little bunk beds for us. So on these flights, like I said, they'll split the crew into like maybe 2 or 3 groups and we'll get like a couple hours rest. Now on that kind of length of flight, it will typically be like 3 to 4 hours. So that's kind of how it's worked. However, it is difficult because that flight, the departure time is like 10 a.m. and you are maybe sometimes having to go and sleep for 4 hours at like 2 p.m. So it's like sometimes you're like, that's your time. But if you can't sleep, you can't sleep. Like you can't force yourself to sleep.
Yeah, so you're essentially on that flight. You're signing away your right to having a body clock because your body clock is gone. There's no point
Uh,
in
I mean, when you sign up for this job, you're signing up to not having a
a
body
body
clock.
clock.
The time differences as well is like really, it really does mess with you, like because you like Auckland is a perfect example because you leave Dubai and it's bright and in the morning and you land in Auckland and the sun is rising and you're like, oh my god, where is the night gone? Like I'm tired, I want to go to sleep, but it's the sun's just coming up. So your body almost like also wants to like your body is like meant to function during the day. So when you land, you obviously want to like eat breakfast or I don't know, do normal things, go for a walk or whatever. But you're so exhausted, but also so confused by the time, you know?
Well, I can imagine. I can't say that I know because that would be a lie. 'Cause I can't even.
You can
But
imagine.
I can imagine. If you had to choose, we'll say two. What would be your two favourite places for a layover?
A layover, I absolutely loved Singapore. Like everything about Singapore is unbelievable. Like the place is extremely clean. The people are so nice, they're so friendly, and everything is I mean, Singapore's quite like Dubai. Like everything's very extravagant and the views are amazing and there's so much to do. So that is one of my favorites. Another one, honestly, is Lisbon. Like this one, I'm annoyed at myself for because being like from the UK and never going to Portugal before, when I like went with Emirates, I was like, oh my gosh, why have I never been here before? Like it is beautiful. Food is amazing. Again, the people are so nice. Lovely weather. Yeah, those are my two.
Lovely. Move on now to talk a bit about pandemic, which has obviously been a massive issue for everyone, especially your
Yeah,
industry.
yeah.
When did you first hear rumblings that it was going to be like coronavirus was going to potentially shut everything down?
Um, honestly, I feel like it was very delayed here, and especially Emirates' stance on it. Like, I had heard back in December some rumors about this virus because I had a friend actually living in Wuhan, and he was like, Gillian, something's coming and it's going to be like massive. It's going to like be really, really bad. But like, I was kind of thinking, right, well, that's over there. Like, I'm here. That's not going to affect it. And then when the rumours started to come, Emirates basically took this stance that nothing's going to happen. Don't worry. We don't need masks. We don't need gloves, blah, blah, blah. And then literally, I went on a flight on the 19th of March. And it was the first flight that I went on. The Emirates said, okay, guys, you need to wear a mask. So this made me kind of like, oh, this is bad if they're saying it. Because back to what I said in the beginning, like we were all very about how we looked. And the iconic red lipstick was like a main focal point of how us like girls looked on the flight. And the fact that they were covering that up, I was like, something bad is going on here. Like something's going to be fishy. I then landed from that flight. I then got COVID tested, which was the first like that I had even known that that was possible. And 2 days later, we went into lockdown. So it happened like almost like the switch of a light.
Right. And in terms of passengers on the plane, did they ever speak about it, or was it just Emirates would prefer it not to be spoken about because they were just going to plough on regardless?
I mean, honestly, like we were kind of briefed that passengers would ask what was happening, and that we were just to like basically reassure the passengers, just be like, don't worry about it, like we'll keep you updated, stuff like that. It was never meant to be like a kind of scaring tactic, but everybody on the flight was panicked because this was like the last flight I actually done was Glasgow, funnily enough. And obviously, like being from Glasgow, I'm like chit chatting to all these people, and all these people are coming home worried that they're not going to get back out to where they're meant to be. So this is maybe like residents of Dubai or Australia or wherever they live. And they were saying, oh, I've came to visit my family, but I'm a bit scared that I'm not going to get back. And I basically was just told to tell them, oh, don't worry, like it should be fine. Which was too
Famous
vague.
last words.
Pretty much, yeah.
What happened to you once the lockdown did happen in terms of your job?
So, like, we're all in Emirates accommodation. Now, the Emirates accommodation, like, I really can't complain. We've got a nice apartment, all our bills are paid for. Like, there's really no complaints. You've got security watching. Like, it's really a great setup. However, when we went into lockdown, it was almost like we were like prisoners. The security were obviously tracking where we were going, how long we were out. Like it got very like intense very quickly. Oh, understandably because we went into like a national lockdown. And here, like they were super strict about it. Like it wasn't just like, oh, don't worry. It was like you're either getting you like you could get jailed if you're going out. So I was locked in with sorry, I should have said this. On in the like the setup of the apartments, you're basically just assigned an apartment. You don't really get to choose like who you live with. So I was living with two Polish girls that don't get me wrong, I did get on with, but like I hadn't been in a like confined, restricted vicinity with them. Like we were kind of like ships passing in the night because I was on a flight, they were on a flight. Like we just lived in the same like communal space and that was it. And this was the first time that I ever had to spend like a long period of close time with them. And luckily, I was with my boyfriend Tom at the time, and it was 2 days, and I was like, Tom, I can't do this. Like, I can't be with these people. Like, they two were best friends, so I just felt so isolated. Like, and luckily, I then came and stayed with my boyfriend, which was honestly a lifesaver. Like,
In terms of the Dubai restrictions, would that have been allowed, or are we technically breaking the rules by going to stay with him?
technically breaking the rules, because we were like considered not from the same household. But then obviously, like, because I had then stayed for that length of time, we were the one household. But there was like basically the way that they done it was they put like time limits on the hours you could go out. So it was like between 5 a.m. and 10, you could like freely move, but you had to have like a permission slip essentially. So this was like something that you applied for online. You said where you were going, and the police would like authenticate whether your journey was allowed essentially. So I just like applied to like basically go to his house. It got approved, and I bolted like because I didn't know what was coming essentially.
Been through all that, so proper lockdown. When did the tide start to turn and you were told that things are going to start back up again?
So honestly, for Emirates, like they're a like multi-billion-dollar industry or a multi-billion-dollar airline. So they were obviously extremely eager to get things back up and running. So we were back flying. So that was the March we went into lockdown. We were back flying, I think, the end of April, start of May. Like it was very quick. But it wasn't really passenger flights. It was like they really upped the ante on the cargo because this was obviously a time that loads of people were needing like masks and like PPE, sanitizer. So they basically ran a lot of the flights like cargo only. So it
That
was
would that have been their only that must have been their only form of income at that time?
at that time, yes. But this also meant that they upped the price because they weren't putting passengers on the plane. So I think their cargo per kilo went from like 20 US dollars to like 150 US dollars per kilo because they had to make money somehow, you know.
True, very true. And then when was your first passenger flight back?
My first passenger flight was the 1st of June, I think. And I'm not kidding, I cried like a baby when I went on it because at that time, like everybody was so scared of what this actually was. Nobody really knew what was going on. Like I was bloody terrified. Like I'm an economy cabin crew as well. So like I'm in a confined space with like 300 odd passengers. So it's not like I'm in a first class cabin with less than 10 people. Like I don't know who I'm meeting essentially on this flight. But on the first flight, we had 9 passengers on the aircraft.
From a working capacity of how many? Would there have been any
A
social distancing at that
working
time?
capacity of over 400. Again, but holding cargo. But this time it would be in like the belly. So it was like rather than suitcases, they would load like cargo, but with passengers too, to obviously like make the journey actually worth it.
So it's a hybrid income, half from cargo, half
Pretty,
from passenger.
yeah, pretty much.
Even present day, what is different about your job now to, let's say, February 2020?
Um, I mean now like when we go on layovers, we're pretty much treated like again like criminals. Like I just done Melbourne, and obviously everybody knows about the restrictions in Australia, like how strict they are, how crazy they are with regards to their lockdowns. And when we landed, we were like 3 hours in the airport. We got a detention notice, so we were pretty much like I said, like prisoners. We were like escorted to the hotel by police. We got escorted to the rooms. We didn't even get a key card to like open the door because we weren't allowed to leave. You were escorted then out the room, back into the aircraft. Like honestly, I used to live such like a free, carefree, fun life. And now I dread every layover because I'm like, oh my God, what is this country's restrictions going to be? And then even on the aircraft, it's like you've got goggles on, you've got PPE on. Add that with my terrible accent. Like communication is so difficult.
Especially if you're sort of saying the Glasgow accent's an issue, then once you strip that back, facial cues are really important. You
Exactly.
don't
Like
even have that anymore.
exactly. And like one of the most important things again for Emirates, going back to about look, is about your smile and about how you're like welcoming a passenger in. And how does someone know you're actually smiling when you've got a mask covering your mouth? And I understand it's all in the eyes and stuff, but you can scrunch your eyes up and make it look like you're smiling without smiling. You know what
I think, but see, with a mask on, see if you were smiling, this I think the way your eyes go when you're smiling under a mask is the same as they would look if you're about to start crying. See that, like the way you
I mean?
stretch your face. So
It looks like
it isn't foolproof.
no, it's not. It's not. It's fake. Like for us, it's quite funny because we laugh and we joke as crew. Like passengers don't know that we're making faces and this and that. But it's sad because it's like again they don't know we're making nice faces or like nice cues. So it's one of these things though that it's probably not going to be leaving, especially on places
Anytime soon. Exactly.
anything soon. And what's so funny is like before doing all these like Asian destinations, like if you're going to like anywhere in China or even Singapore, especially Japan, these people were wearing masks long before the pandemic hit, purely out of courtesy for other people. And now we're all having to wear them. So it's like, why were we not this courteous before? You know?
Because people don't like wearing masks. They think it's sort of somehow a bit prehistoric almost, and it inhibits your face a bit. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. I'm looking forward to masks going away, but I can still
Honestly,
understand why they're.
me too, but like the story that I love the most, right, is the Japanese. Now, again, being from the UK, I didn't like Japan was another like place on the other side of the earth that I didn't really care about before. And it wasn't until I've done like the flights, I think these people are so generous and considerate because they are the type of people like that will wear a mask if they're sick because they don't want anyone else to get sick. Not because they're protecting themselves from someone else, because they're protecting other people from themselves, which I think is just like how many like that's the kind of manners people should have, you know?
They are a very humble people, though.
A
Japanese,
hundred
very.
percent, 100%.
And we keep it on the present day type vibe here. Are there any restrictions in place in Dubai today?
Um, honestly, Dubai's pretty like free at the minute. You still have to wear your mask everywhere. If you don't wear your mask, you get fined. And the fines are like 3,000 dirhams, which is like £600, which is a lot of money for being caught without your mask. Um, other kind of restrictions is just like social distancing, 2 meters apart, like kind of reduced capacity for clubs and restaurants and things like that. And the worst one is you can't dance when you go out. So you just have to sit down, tap your toe.
Stab your toe. We've actually just got that back. Nightclubs have just opened, but we've now got the vaccine passport coming in here. Have you got anything like that in Dubai?
No, like I mean, Abu Dhabi, they have kind of brought a similar thing where you basically just show that you're vaccinated on an app on your phone. But Dubai is very lenient. We don't really have anything that's as strict as a vaccine passport. Like often you're asked, "Are you vaccinated?" But it never restricts you from doing anything.
Interesting. So whether you answer yes or no, there's never really a follow up question.
It doesn't really matter. Like it's almost more out of curiosity.
See if we go back a bit to last winter, this is what I
Uh-huh.
wanted to ask you about when just after Christmas, just before the UK lockdown came in, and Dubai was getting a bit of a bashing because everybody and their dog were escaping, quote unquote, from here to over there. What was that the case? Was it really as obvious as what people made out to be
Oh,
here?
oh, it was terrible. Like I'm actually not gonna lie to you. It was actually awful. So I actually was back in Glasgow in the full month of December, and my boyfriend had came and had Christmas with my family. But then that was when Scotland went back into lockdown. So I think they went into lockdown on Boxing Day, and we were meant to stay until the 29th. And the two of us were like, let's just get out of here in case there's a full lockdown, like in case we like can't get out. So we got back into Dubai. Now the Glasgow flight lands into Dubai around 1 a.m., which is usually quite a busy time for other flights landing from like Europe and the UK. I am not joking when I say this. There was easily 700 or 800 people at customs trying to show their PCR tests, and they were all from the UK.
And
The like uproar of, or the hassle that they caused, one in the airport, was honestly unbelievable. And as a result of that, we then, at the end of January, had a lot tougher restrictions. So they closed restaurants, they put like limited, like more stricter capacity on like restaurants, gyms, brunch was cancelled, there was no like nights out, bars were closed, all as a result of all these people being from the UK. And honestly, it was fine from the people from the UK because they came for their winter holiday and then they went back. But we were the ones who then had to live with the repercussions, essentially, which was absolutely shit, basically.
twofold on that as well, because see here, although we had the lockdown, I think it then created this not a two-tier system where you think, right, well, if there's these restrictions here, escaping to Dubai was it's a bad look,
It's a
and
bad look, yeah. I,
and then I think there's people, as you say, they had to come back eventually, so it doesn't matter if they're having 2 weeks of mixing with people, potentially getting COVID and coming back with COVID. That's still less preferable to just having stayed in for the 2 weeks.
yeah,
So you kind
exactly.
of, and then Dubai, you on the other side, the cases go up in Dubai because these people are mixing with the residents. So everybody loses.
Another thing as well that was really bad was that a lot of people like from the UK were faking COVID tests. So they had maybe been positive. They had a fake negative, then came over again, put our numbers up, and then left. So infected people, and then like buggered off back to the UK. So it was like I said, we were left in such a bad state, and in such a bad state with our like cases. Like it was really, really so bad.
It was yeah, it was interesting at the time because I remember watching the news one morning and there was the girl. She was from the northeast. She had the Newcastle accent and
Oh yes.
she was saying her work in Dubai. She was like I think an online coach. She was saying her work
She
was
said,
essential.
I'm essential.
Yeah, that was it. That was it. Amazing.
Thing. Me and my boyfriend seen her on the beach, lying on the beach. I'm like, oh yes, worker.
Inspirational. Yeah, she's so.
Honestly,
Oh, but yeah, then like I think I say there were maybe a small few that was genuinely their winter holiday. Then you had the maybe the fame hungry ones like her on the TV, and you just think, you're going to end up getting everyone tarred with the same brush.
I mean, let's be honest. The whole of Love Island cast 2019 from 2020 were in Dubai. Like you
Every
could have
Instagram post was
right
the palm.
five
That's
pounds.
that one. That one. Yeah.
Like come on, we could have had a Love Island reunion. That's how many of them were here. Like
Yeah, but I assume it's all calmed back down now.
yeah, I mean, like now we're starting to see quite an influx of like holiday goers because like restrictions from places, some of the places in Europe have opened like to come to Dubai. So like of course people are going to come on holiday. Like it's the place that's hot all year round. So like why wouldn't you?
And you personally, do you see yourself staying there long term?
Honestly, when I first moved here, no. Like because I really struggled to come to terms with a lot of things. Like I said, I felt kind of misunderstood here. And like I felt like everything was so much more difficult for me because again, relating back to my accent, like I know I keep going on about this, but it really was proven really difficult sometimes. Like I would go on the phone for like an appointment for the doctor, and I would be repeating myself like umpteen times. And I'm like, how am I meant to get anything done when everything frustrates me? However, I think like with time, I've just got used to like this is the way that things are here. And of course, I'm going to be misunderstood. But I think now, long term, because I've like almost made roots for myself here, I can see myself being here longer term. Yeah.
Excellent. As long as you're happy. I mean, that's home is where the heart is, and it sounds as though you've found your way.
And I think as well, like Glasgow's such a small place, and I think far too often people just get caught up in doing the same thing, going out at the weekend, getting steaming drunk, and then going back to work on the Monday, having a 2-week holiday in the summer. And I'm like, surely there's more to life than that. And I feel like here, I have had so many, like I've had more experiences in Dubai in the like 2.5 years that I've been here in my whole life back home, you know?
Yeah, but then everyone can't move to Dubai, or else there would be Dubai would get too full. But I think that there needs to be, I think for certainly depends on what you're, because I mean you made the decision to on a whim apply and do that, whereas not everybody is going to A, be able to, or B, have the same sort of guts as such as you did. And yeah, that's good though. That's good.
I came out here when I was 21, didn't know a bloody soul. And know that way, it wasn't until I landed in Dubai, I literally phoned my mum in floods of tears, like, I've made the biggest mistake. Like, what have I done? Like, I've come out here, I don't know anyone. I don't have any friends. Like, I didn't even have Wi-Fi in my apartment. So it was kind of like, right, Gillian, you need to, like, pull up your big girl pants and get on with it. And I think, like, it has genuinely made me grow up so damn quickly.
What would so my last question would be, if there was another 21-year-old, a female that was thinking of applying for Emirates, what would you say to her?
I would say do it, because if you don't do it, you'll always wonder what if. You never know the places you'll meet, or the people you'll meet in the places you'll go, because you don't know, like I said, you don't know who's going to be on that aircraft. You could meet the love of your life, or you could meet your next job opportunity.
Or you could meet a man with smelly toes sitting next to you.
Tell me to put shoes on. But yeah, it's another main thing is get your driver's license. Like, I have gained so much independence from being able to drive and being able to explore a lot more. And don't be shy. Like, you don't ask, you don't get in this world. And if you don't put yourself out there, then you're never going to know where you end up. So
true. That driving license one should be across the board, no matter what corner of the world you live in. Get that done. You should get that done early, because the older you get, the harder it is.
Like here, like here, there isn't really a main city centre, so everything takes at least 20 to 30 minutes to drive to. Like me, if I want to go to the gym, I'm driving half an hour to go to the gym. You absolutely need to drive here, and you can't walk because it's 45 degrees and there's no paths. Like, it's not pedestrian friendly because you're walking on the sand.
No, that's me. Thank you so much. It's nice I like hearing other people's like aspects on life, what their life is like. So thank you.
Everybody's different, but yeah, this was so fun.
Thank you. Right, I'll speak to you soon.
Okay, no worries.
Bye.
Bye.
I know. Bye. And there you go. Big thanks to this week's guest, Gillian, for her time. Gillian's Instagram is at Gillian Paulley, and the link to this can be found in the show notes. Usual bits and pieces from me just to see you out. The best way to keep up to date with future episodes of Lost for Words is to follow using the handle at Lost for Words Pod on both Twitter and Instagram. To support the show, hit the subscribe button wherever you get your podcasts, and if you're an Apple user, a 5-star review in your podcast app would mean the world. If you like what you hear, then even consider telling someone, because word of mouth is great too. But that's all from me for this week. I am your host Jason, and this has been Mile High to Dubai with Gillian Paulley. I hope to see you back next time for another episode of the Lost for Words podcast.